Way to start, okay? Very nice to be here again. I always enjoy coming and reminding me a little bit of the ways that we do and live here and enjoy what we have, and also welcome the ones who are coming in and see all the changes that are happening up and down. I was born here in Boquete, in one of the houses, in those times when the doctor used to go to the house. But the only problem is the doctor forgot his briefcase. So he arrived there, and I was almost ready to be coming out. And then the doctor said, "Do you have any cotton thread, you know?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we have some of the ones that we use for, sewing the bags, the jute bags." And they said, "Well, just bring it in, some alcohol, and that's it." That's the way I was. And I said, "Well, I'm here. It worked. It's okay." I went to a public school here. So I've been all the time involved in the development of life in Boquete. My mother is a teacher. My father used to be a trade person. He used to buy vegetables here, sell it in other places in town, or in David, or in central provinces, or in Panama. So sometimes when we were growing up, he was just disappeared, and we were there with my mom, all the kids with her. So I finished the school here. I went to the high school, the public high school, local public high school. I finished here, and then by that time we were already working in the business. I've been working in the coffee business over 40, 43, 45 years, because we start very early. Those times you start early. That was the way you will just build up with the family, which created a very good support system. So everybody was just pitching in. You gotta pitch in, and that's the way we will make business happen. So by that time, I finished high school here. We were already in the business. We were doing coffee business, and we've been always doing business with coffee. If you are in Boquete, it's about coffee. Went to the university, so I graduated in the university in David. We will just work during the day and go at night, because that's the only time that we had to do any studies, like everybody else that could go to David. So finished been a bachelor's in science in industrial engineering and management, which was very good and useful for the kind of business we were doing. After that, worked for 2-3 years, and my father decided that only you can make progress in this world if you know English. So all of the kids that we were working, we had to go to the United States and learn English. So we started to learn English. When I was there, I told my dad, "Well, I need to study a master's degree, because if we need to make progress, we need to just keep going." And that's also my mother's side, because my mother is from the side that if you don't know something, you go and just study it. And if you don't go and have a school, then you go to the library, study in the library. As long as you read, you can figure it out. And after that, came back, worked for 11 years, and I realized that I didn't know too much of the things that were going on in the world. And the next segment of life was going to be where we were talking about in 1986, the global world, which nobody really understood what it meant. But anyways, I realized that when you go outside and you have businesses that are international businesses, you got to compete at the international level. So the question was, how do you get in touch with the knowledge industry? Then I realized, well, I was very upset that day that I realized that we had to get into the knowledge industry, because all the Panamanians, they are not doing it. Nobody's interested in getting into this business of getting better things and knowing more and developing knowledge and all those things. So I was very upset, and finally I realized, well, I'm a Panamanian, I better do something. And that's the way I decided, okay, I'll go to have a PhD, since that's the way to get into the industry of knowledge. I resigned to my post on my father's business. Almost he got a heart attack because I did that, and he was just very upset that these things happening. He couldn't understand what I was doing, but anyways, had made all my decisions. He even checked it. I had to take the plane when I said I was going to leave. So he was checking. Did she leave? Oh, she did. Okay, well, she's on something. And then I went to study a PhD in organizational behavior in Case Western Reserve University. Later on, figure out, well, they told us that it was in this department, it was the first top university in the world. That was like, wow. All just coming from out Boquete. So that's what we're going to talk about. I brought some kind of a theme that I think is very interesting, and it's even more interesting for me also because we can have a little bit of a conversation later on, and I will ask you to let me know about timing, because it talks about what is really the sustainable development. Show of hands right now, how many of you have been here longer than 7 years? Okay, we have some people that can relate to this. Because what we are now facing has to do with how we sustain what is important for the next generation. What are the things that we can do now, today, that will make a difference for next generation? So this is basically talking about environmental issues here, but also building up what is the future of Boquete. And this presentation, I had it in 2005, and it's interesting to take a look at it 12 years after it. That's what sometimes I like to do about history, is what we thought at that time and where we are right now, and what we did and we didn't do. Because anyways, one thing I find out that time never stops, even if I would like to. I just saw the date there and I was like, oh my, a decade. Wow. Well, I understand that because my hair is getting gray, that's why. But anyways, okay. So what we had in that time was a vision of what we wanted to have as Boquete for the 21st century. And this presentation is in English, so I'm going to do some of the translation. The first thing that we had agreed in this was, what is interesting is that we developed this not for a group like you, but a group of Boqueteños. So it would be part of you, but part of the other ones that are out there too. So we would decide, okay, what is Boquete? Boquete is a place where we like to live in peace, happiness, and security, basically. Second, it is a society that is respectful society and shows solidarity. The citizens have a very good relationships with the authorities, and also the citizens and innovators and entrepreneurs. And above that, we are also conscious of our own history and what is the future that we are looking into. We also are a community of citizens. We are creative innovators. We also look at hospitality. We show hospitality to people. We like to be courteous people. We like to be healthy ethics principles and moral principles, because this is what promotes the values of the family, because this is what is going to really settle the good society for the next generation. But we also think that Boquete is a region where we can do this. We got to enjoy something that is the pureness of nature. And what we want to do is to how we, using sustainability principles, we can live in a balance, business conscious doing it, where we keep biodiversity and we also integrate the different kind of development, the infrastructure development that as a community we want and we need to have, as to be able to promote the economic activities. So we have quality of life for the ones who are here and for the ones who are coming and visiting us. That's quite a vision. That's quite a big task. So we had to start. Some good things that I did was, okay, I like to show pictures so you can see this is the Central Avenue in 1950. This is in 2004. I didn't take this picture now because it was a little bit too crowded, so I thought, okay, let's just leave it like that. But as you can notice, the first thing that I noticed about this is that the people in 1950, they did one very nice thing, and they left enough space. That's very nice. We already have, there, right now it's 60 years of people of vision. They understood what we were going to. And what I'm finding out is that we are forgetting those things. Now that I go through some areas, I see development. Okay, this is going north. This is coming from the park would be right here. Now we can see what is happening. A little bit crowded now. We still need to reorganize a couple of things here. Okay, Now next. So what it is that we have here? We have a district that by nature, by its own way of being, is a green district. The main part of what holds our district and everything that we have is exactly its own treasure, which is nature. What it offers not only to the locals, but also for the rest of the provinces. But it's also, because it's a natural place where you can have a very nice natural areas with the high mountains, we also are an agricultural district. And that's the first thing that the first settlers came and did. Why? Because you need food. And this was the best place to grow food. See, those little onions just are from some areas that were just amazing. And you could see, I mean, you could hear stories about pigs being this tall, 900 pounds, because they were so well fed here. Everything was so fertile. But it's also a touristic district. And it's always been a touristic district. It has some attraction to people to come and visit, just to be here. Some people just like to be here. Sit down and be here. And it's also this one. If we have all the other ones, we have to deal with this one, which is the urban district. Because all these activities that are happening around this group of people that we are, needs to be organized in a way that we can survive better and have quality of life. So why is Boquete so interesting place? Well, the reason why is because we are right here. This is our corner. In reality, the district comes all the way here, comes down here, and goes up here. But this is the main part of the district. And what it is that we are created a very specific, unique place where you have the Talamanca mountain range coming down from the north. Then you have the volcano coming north-south. And then here we get all the interactions from the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. As you can see, David is quite far. We are closer to the Caribbean than would be to the Pacific. This creates the main way for human community to live. And we know that very much with all these hurricanes going by. They don't touch us, just because the way we are. So we are a unique place. So that's the first thing that we know. There is no other point in the world that would be like this one. None. This is the only one. It means that we have a lot of hills coming down, a lot of channels being formed. It means that every time that we do roads, we are also creating rivers. And sometimes we forget about those things, especially now with climate change. Climate change is bringing up into some of the challenges that now we have to face with how we develop the infrastructure. Because we need to keep in mind that the amount of water that we're getting now in a very short time is almost double that they used to be. And it creates then some kind of dangers then for not only infrastructure, because increase the cost of infrastructure. How many times we need to rebuild the road just because we forgot about the water. It also shows that whenever we break this pattern, that we have trees, big trees, we are also creating superficial water. So it's not only to know what is going to happen around, but it's also what is the impact that we are doing with whatever used to be the nice areas of Boquete, which is all around and being mountains, hills, and of course, formed by the rivers. That also includes the way that how we do agriculture. What are the best ways to keep the fertile line up here and not in the Pacific? Because as you know, every time that you see all those dark waters coming down, topsoil is ending up, we are exporting topsoil to the Pacific. But the problem is we don't get paid for it. But we need to work for it then, later on. So those are the things that we also need to be careful when we are talking about sustainability. It's not only to understand nature itself, but also to understand what we do with that kind of nature. The best way that we have had so far, and these farms here that you see here, those were the first farms established in Boquete in the late 1800s. Farms that are already 100-year-old farms. And the nice part about coffee is that coffee is very friendly as a buffer zone between what is a jungle, a natural area, and the ones that are coming to become economic generators of, for the community. So the agriculture in this side of the volcano, we do a lot of coffee and oranges and trees, basically. Whatever grows like trees, that's what we have here. With climate change, it's moving more into whatever we are seeing now, which is the greenhouses. Now you see more greenhouses because we do not know what to do with climate change. We have, I think, 6 years of noticing climate change in the way the coffee behaves. And the only way that we were noticing the climate change was because coffee was blooming in different times. It was supposed to bloom at the end of March, beginning of April. We have 30 years of that clock type. And after that, it just blew out. Then it was blooming in November, blooming in January, blooming in February, blooming in March, and blooming wherever it pleases. That's the way we understood climate change. What it meant for the growing coffee, that you had all this organizational happening, not organizational behavior anymore. It's totally the opposite. So that's what is major change that we are having now in the agricultural sector. It's what we do with climate change and how the things that we are going to do are going to impact the system that we are living in. Then we have urban development. We, of course, with all the movement that we had in the late 1997 when Boquete was declared one of the first places to come and live, it created a boom, and then now we have more people coming in, more people interested in living here in a very nice place. Now we are becoming quite global. What are the kind of challenges that created to the municipality? And the problem that it was with this is that it was like the climate change. Climate change happened without telling anyone. Urban development came without telling anyone. And suddenly, in less than 5 years, you had to rethought the whole system. And we're still trying to resolve it. And we still do not know what to do with it. Just look at the system that is happening now with the water. So all those things became just kind of a surprise party. Now we need to serve all these other needs. And these are real needs of the urban development. And not only then understand the urban development, but also understand how is the system acting against the urban development. Or what are the things that we forgot about in history that we just need to remember in order to really get a very good, safe, as we thought before, and we were stated before, quality of life in a safe environment. What does also mean to face the things that the system is bringing in just because it's the system, it's nature. We have, this is the bridge now they are building now. They are basically starting to put little columns right here. You can still see this one. This picture was in 1968, just before the big flood that happens in 1970. And let's see, we can get very much amount of water in very short time. And this is 2004, I think, the same river. Now they are trying to see the road was all here, the bridge was there, river came this way, where it used to be. Now they are building the bridge right here again. So we'll see how long it's going to take for the river to do something else. We always tell the river is the one who set the pace. And this is the same day. Now, 1968, I had the opportunity we were taken out of the school, and I had the opportunity to go and see this part here. It was for the first time that I saw water coming from here all the way here. all this was water. I couldn't believe it was that many water. I never understood how it happened, but it was just covered. 1970, it was even worse. So those are the things that happens. We know it happens. It had happened before. It had happened like 50 years before had happened. So these things happen, period. But then we also have other impacts. Now with the hydroelectrics coming in, they want the water. And it's very good when the water is there, but the water is also something that we understand is a limited resource. Somebody got to be taking care of the water before we end up having this. No water at all. And with climate change, it also had happened that. 2 years ago, we almost didn't have any water during the dry season. And it was surprising because I never saw some areas totally dry for the first time in my whole life. And I said, these are the real issues that we need to start paying attention to. Those are signs. So we have different things to face now. We have to understand what are the interrelations and what are the priorities that we need to work on. We have what we know. These are the districts that is green. Because of that, we do some activities that are agribusiness based. And because of that, these two things create a very interesting place to come and see, and live, and stay, and visit, which means that we are creating an urban demand. What it means, this. How do we organize ourselves with everything that is needed to keep this whole picture being in a sustainable way and to pass on this to following generations with at least the same value that we had received? We need to do some strategic planning. We need to do some very good municipality finance programs. We need to have some good historians, because these are things that we can do that are, I would say, actions that are proactions. I can be proactive. We don't need to wait until something happens in order to do some things. I was just, there is a podcast that is taking people to hear stories. It's important to know the story. It's important to understand what had happened in the past, what we learned from the past, and how we can apply it in the present. And technology is playing a key role in that. Technology is amazing. It's how many other things we can put into. It's a whole project of how many pictures we can have from the old time of Boquete. Boquete is a very, very interesting place. In 1914 came the railroad here, opening this little town into the world. Because since then, people have been exporting coffee. And if you export coffee, you are dealing at the level of the world. It's a global area. We are in a global point. We are in this energy point, and if you want to rest here, there is so many unique things that this district has. And then on top of that, then this part of what we need to do with the ambience area, I think that the most key part would be the water part. Is how do we provide water? I don't think that we are going to be having more problems with electricity or things, but with much more with the source of water. And human beings cannot live with water. And this is a place where you can see, I mean, when it rains, I'm glad it rains, because at least there is some water. The problem is, what do we do with it? How do we really help it to be in a place that we can still keep it? How do we use it industrially, as in not abusing of it? How do we do agribusinesses without really taking away what it creates, the underneath water? So what do we do with, now that we are urban, now we have to do some issues about what it is, the garbage part. How do we deal with it? I mean, it's good to have tourists coming in, but also there is a creation of other extra things that comes with the touristic part. How do we do with well, thanks God, finally the sewer system is being placed. We hope that it will be running soon, because if the government is promoting, because it comes then other one, the strategic planification of this whole movement, if the government is pouring a lot of money in promoting Boquete as a tourist destination? Are we really ready to receive all those people? Sometimes people say, do you want to have a nice tour, coffee tour? Sure, I'll give a coffee tour. Yeah, well, it is a bus of 72 people. Sorry, I cannot do it. We are not ready for that. Not yet. We might be ready for that, but not yet. So those are the kind of situations that we have to be ready to say no when we cannot do it. Because first we cannot do the service as it was supposed to be. So we need to start planning in that sense. If we're going to promote this part of our touristic visitors, then we need to do something about it. What are we going to do with the agribusinesses? It's another issue. The coffee business has decreased, in my account, the last numbers from 10 years ago, it has decreased almost 60%. And the reason is because there is no labor force enough to do everything. And the main reason is the challenges of the high cost of keeping coffee because of climate change. The problem with the climate change is that brought the coffee roast, and the coffee roast destroys very fast the system that we knew. 6 years ago, I remember when the first coffee roast we saw it came right when we were in the middle of studying the picking season. And coffee roast is a fungus. It's a fungus that attacks the leaves of the trees. So it blooms. It's a sporus. It's a kind of a sporus. This is like a cold. I mean, we get rid of the cold. We can do some things about the cold, but it's the same thing in the coffee business. It's always on the floor. That fungus is always on the floor. But if you have different kind of low temperature, and then you have higher temperature, it's a little bit longer than 4 days. That's it. You know you have it. And the problem with the porous, this is a sporus type, is that it flies with the wind. Now, if you have a little bit of the wind, you say, wow, nice, we have a very nice sunny day, 3 sunny days. It looks like December, nice wind. I'm thinking, are you spraying already? Right away you have to spray. We didn't know that. The first time that it happened, we didn't know that. And because we didn't know how to deal with it, we sprayed, but it was already late. It was already flying, first. Second, because people were just moving around the coffee farm, this spores goes with your clothes. And because this is on the leaves, whatever you just walk, there it goes with you. And then whatever it is with no health, is this healthy plant, now it gets it. So we lost 20% of the total crop, which meant that we had to turn down the trees, because after the tree falls all the leaves, the best way to deal with it is you cut it at this high and you wait 3 more years so it comes back. So first time, we didn't know, so we lost 20%. The second year, we lost 15% of the ones, so now we have a little bit more. And then the third year, we were getting better. We lost only 10%. But we already have 3 years of accumulative loss. So we went almost 1/6 of the crop for the farm. It's no business. And it is much better for many growers not to do anything. At least you don't lose your money. And that is climate change. So this whole industry, what has happened has become more specialized. Areas are becoming warmer. Those areas that are becoming warmer, those are areas that are becoming marginal to grow coffee. So those areas, you gotta start finding out what else are you gonna be growing there. So we're still in the process of finding out what else we can grow in there. Some areas we know already changed to agribusinesses. You see all these onion areas, potatoes, everything that is faster. At least you have a chance to figure it out shorter. With coffee, we cannot figure out that short. So we need to wait the 3 years and see if the plant came back, and we need to wait 5 years and see if they are producing again. By this time, you have all this time that you have to be taking care of the plant. So it's a real challenge for coffee growers. The good news is that in 2004 we discovered the geisha coffee. So the geisha coffee plus other varieties have become more specialized, and because they can be sold at higher price, you are able to deal with the cost of it. But not everybody could change. This is not something that you say, oops, now I know, let me change. No, it's not cabbage. Yeah. So when it was discovered in 2004, then we have to wait 7 more years to see if the new crops were going to come. So we got already in 2011. So basically we are just 5 years after being really learning how to deal with this, what areas are working well, what areas are not working well. And you cannot do faster than that. So it's a very patient type of process. Well, not so much of patient, but anyways. It's just the way it is. So but that's the reason why in this area, the coffee industry has gone to become highly specialized, highly specialized. So we are talking about coffee that, let's say the geisha coffee, I'm sure that you all heard that the last price paid for the geisha was $600 and $1 per pound. But these are very unique lots, very small lots, 150 pounds. A ton of money, of course, but it's a very small amount. And it still is part of the process of growers learning how to deal with these varieties. So we do a lot of processing, changing processing, ways you do process, and see and put it on the competitions about if this is the way to go. So basically, we are starting to learn to teach next generation, and in fact, most of us are already teaching the next generation. They are the ones who are going to enjoy whatever we are learning now. This generation I'm living in is making history. This generation I'm living in coffee is the one that is learning what needs to be learned to pass on to the next ones for whatever coffee area we can keep, knowing that coffee area is a very friendly activity to have to keep green areas. My wish is to find a way that it will still be coffee here 100 years from now, because it's a very friendly way, and I think that we are in the right path to do it. Some of us, we will have to move out of the coffee way and the coffee industry. Some of us will become more specialized in the areas that can become more specialized, but there is hope in that sense. And because it is enough money developed in that system, then it will be sustainable. That's what we're looking into. What is that makes it sustainable? And as we know, then we need to look into what it is that, knowing what are the main parts that we can keep as economic area, what are the ways that we can keep this structure, the urban side, the visitor part, all the construction that is taking place because of the touristic idea. I've seen many hostels. Every day I see a new one. And I'm in the touristic industry, and I don't even know all of them. So there is this sense of always looking into what it is that we can have a chance to make economics. So that will never stop. This is part of our human gene. But within that gene is understanding what we can do being in Boquete, understanding that if the participation that we have in all this with the new way of talking to the municipality, of having activities that really promotes what is needed for the whole town to keep going on as a sustainable place. It's part of our responsibility. And there are many opportunities we can do that. And that's what we want to have when we establish a strategic basic of prevention. What we can do to prevent things. How do we prevent the things that go unorganized? The more we grow, the more order we have to have. The more cars we got, the more strict the rules should be. That is the normal way to develop a group of people. As you see now, every group of people has its own needs, and with all the own needs, we'll have to find out ways to fulfill those needs. Like the blood issue. It's a need. And it's a very serious need. Sometimes you need to really be praying for it, because you don't know even have it sometimes. So these are the things that we are doing now. Is okay, what are the things that in the area of natural things we can do in order to avoid whatever nature can do to us? Just because the way weather is. We're having, just look at hurricane. What happens in Florida? How many people were really ready for that? We never had it before like that. I never seen it before like that. Same thing here. What are the things that we are doing that we're promoting that we should stop doing it? So I'm going to just leave it there because that was the part that basically we were looking into more in, yes, I can see the people working on the roads and how they are trying to deal with the water. And it's always, I always laugh about it because they think they had it all figured out. And then it comes this huge rain for 20 minutes and everything is gone. And they spend 2 days trying to fix it with the rollers, the rollers are up, when the rollers come down. So those are the kind of things that, as people that we are part of this district, we have a lot of capacity in here, and sometimes we forget how to channel the capacity to be making the district a little bit better, because we live in different areas, and different areas has different needs, different demands. And with that is how do we, with those demands, we contribute also to demands of the longer view of what is taking place in the district. And with that, I will open now for questions and answers in regards to what this is sustainable development for us and what we could do about it. All right.
Maria, can you explain the differences in the coffee that Ruiz grows for export, and what kinds of coffees you grow for export, and where you export them mostly to, and the differences between the coffees that you sell locally, like in the grocery store, and also I think the different grades or different types of coffee you sell in your coffee shop on the Altolino, what I call the Altolino Road.
All right, okay. Coffee is an amazing industry. It's an amazing industry because it's so flexible. Allows, and this is one of the things that why also coffee from Boquete or coffee from Panama is well known. It's because of its flexibility. I can have coffees and change, I mean, it depends on how you roast it. It will change the way how it tastes. Depends on how you process it. It will change the way that it tastes. It depends how you grow it. It will change the taste. How you can do side-by-side lots, and you change the way that you treat it. It will change the way that it will taste. You prepare it, the coffee, differently, and it will change its taste. So what we have here is this amount of jewels that we got in coffee. So right now, Casa Ruiz became the first exporter of coffee from Panama as a specialty coffee, the biggest one. When there was, this is the way we know that the coffee has decreased. I would say 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, before the climate change started to kick. We used to export between 80 and 100 containers of coffee a year, which 40,000 pounds each. That's a lot of coffee being hand-picked. And all the coffee in Boquete is hand-picked coffee. But when these prices come in, and knowing that Panama is a very particular place because we don't have a lot of area for growing coffee. All Central America has much, much higher areas, area-wide speaking, to grow coffee. That's why Panama cannot grow more coffee, because we don't have enough areas. And the second thing is that we are a rather expensive country. This is not cheap country here. So we only could compete at the quality level. Now, coffee from Panama has been well known as prime from Boquete since 1917, when it was discovered that, wow, what a coffee that they grow there. And it has to do because of all those nice little things that has with the geography of Boquete, because it creates this whole microenvironment that we have surrounded. Just any 20 minutes that you change, you can change the temperature. In 10 minutes you go down and it's warmer. You go to the other side that is drier, and you go to the other side it's so wet that you don't want to be there. But those are the things that really creates the beauty of coffee. We export coffee, mostly the high-end coffees goes to Asia. And the reason why it goes to Asia is because the Asian people, the way that I see, they have the tea culture. And tea culture teaches people about the nuances of the taste, the fine nuances of the taste. It's not just drinking for drinking. You drink by really having a conversation with that taste by the time that you drink it all. And they are the ones who were really, at least taught me what it means to really enjoy something in the beverage story, because it's a story. You start a story with the coffee. You start a story with the geisha. You start a story with the varietal Pacamara, Maragogipe, with the old Típica, beautiful coffees. But it's only when we get to that sense of being able to develop the capacity to understand the story of the beverage that is taking place in your mouth, then you appreciate it. And that's what they pay these outrageous prices for these coffees. Because for them, it's also an honor. It's like an honor when you are able to get this uniqueness that comes from nature. Everything that is coming, it comes from that area. It's whatever is happening there. What I could do, if I process wrongly, I destroy it. But if I process correctly, wow. If I roast it wrongly, gone. If I roast it correctly, wow. If I prepare it wrongly, done. If I prepare it correctly, wow. So these are the kind of another world we had to go in, get into, that we didn't have before. Because for us before, it was just nice coffees, good smell, good aroma, and that's it. Moving on. Send it all to the States. 80% of the coffee used to go to the States. Because over there, we used to ship 14 containers a year to Starbucks. Why? Because they use them to prepare their own recipes. They use a little bit of coffee from Panama, a little bit of coffee from other places, and they will have the recipe. They will never let you know about that, of course, because that's trade secret. But that used to be before. Now, with the development of this specialization, moved more because of climate change, because we need to make this sustainable too as economic activity. Then we have developed all this specialization. Now you go to the coffee shop and you say, okay, wow, when you get there, it's all about coffee from Boquete. It's only coffee from Boquete. You have 5 different types of roast. You have 4 different type of varieties. You have 4 different types of micro-region coffee profiling. And this is only talking about this specialization part. With the Ruiz coffee is another different story. In 1983, we had a huge amount of coffee production, and we didn't end up, by that time we were not roasters, we were just traders, we were just exporters. My father started exporting coffee in 1972. So by that time, we were already with all this coffee. What are we going to do with all this coffee? Then my father said, you know what? We deserve to be drinking very good coffee. We produce the best coffees for the going outside of Panama, but there is no good coffee for the people of Panama. I want to produce a coffee that the picker can drink. And that's why we have these little packages, because the picker could drink what they are laboring so much for, and it's good coffee. And the idea was to have for the local people the top line of the coffee done for us. How do you appreciate what you have if you don't know it? And that's how Café Ruiz was brought up. By that time, coffee was $180 per pound. Café Ruiz came out at $4.10 per pound. It was like unheard of it. But if you could drink it, wow. It was like this whole world was open to a new way of drinking coffee. Café Ruiz has 2 different profiles, basically. What's what is called the tipo exportación, which is the one that has the picture. And it has a slight lighter color. And the Altura one, which is the yellow package, is the one that was created specifically for the Panamanian taste. So these also are the little things that we know, that we learn, that we had to learn. Because it's an art, basically. Doing coffee, roasting coffee, processing coffee, taking care of coffee, is a lot of science, but a lot of art, a lot of senses that we have, and we train people in that. And the beauty of the industry is that all of us have 5 senses. So if you have the 5 senses, we can teach you how to process well coffee. You can see how you can pick up good coffees. You can know how you can roast good coffee. And that is what makes it a very democratic kind of opportunity for everyone to be part of it. From the very basics, even children can start learning about it. And the more you learn, the better, because you learn more by practice. You become master by practice, which is an art part. So this is the nice part about coffee. And it's taken, as I said, my father started to, well, my great-grandfather was the first mayor of Boquete, but I also have a small coffee farm. So my grandmother had a coffee farm. So my father bought the coffee farm. So we were in the coffee farm, but it was small. It was just 2 hectares, 3 hectares. But in 1980, we got more coffee farms. So we started to buy coffee farms. So Casa Ruiz owns 150 hectares of coffee. And during the nice areas when coffee was very good, we didn't have climate change yet, we were hiring 900 pickers during the picking season, which was a very high volume of cash that was coming into town, and it was just right away spread out to all the people. Which in Panama it's also interesting, because we do not have a control controlled body that will organize the coffee industry. It's all free market. The pickers, free market. If you treat them well, they will always come back. You treat them bad, they will never come back. They know better your farm than you do. They know when to pick and when not to pick. And they know when we laugh because when it's too much rain, we know we have to pay more, of course. So because they get a lot of headaches. You know, with this rain, it gives too much headache, so you have to raise the price. Well, you raise the price enough, they know. They are excellent negotiators. Believe me, we used to tell them, maybe you deal with the Indians, you never win any kind of negotiation with them, because they know more than you do. So these are the kind of things that are happening right now with the coffee industry. It has become highly specialized. Basically, the Best of Panama activity is 100% run and organized by growers, and it's the only organization in the world that does that. And it's done here, and it started here in Boquete. So this is quite an interesting place to be. And when you have a group of international coffee coppers coming here and meeting together, they first stop, and the first thing that they say is, people feel honored because you've been chosen to be before the most outstanding coffees of the world. Let's start. To hear those things makes you say, wow, it was worth doing all this. Hard work, learning, hardships, failures, a lot of failures, when you can see that we are advancing in that sense. That does answer your question. Another one? Yes.
You mentioned the need for strategic planning and greater financing at the municipal level. In the countries that many of us come from, there's more zoning, there's more planning, kinds of controls over urban sprawl. What do you see happening here? Is there any process underway in Boquete?
We have tried already to do so. We first tried one time with a planning project, but it falls short of what we were expecting because the planning started, but this is growing too fast. And the thing that we are having is this timing part that is just drives us crazy, is that suddenly in 2 years we should have everybody in the municipality segment being, I don't know, PhD on an urban development or something like that. PhD in environmental issues. So what I think that we need to start working on is in the more cooperations things, to have access to the knowledge that we need. Because again, it's timing. This is just moving too fast, and then we are always behind, and you are working like crazy. But it's not, it doesn't get in timing. So I'm thinking now that one part that we can propose to the municipality is to find ways to create some sort of exchange so we can have access to whatever knowledge is needed or whatever needs to be done in certain areas. I've been part of those movements since 2003. And I see some of them worked, some of them, and then of course, if it gets into the government, everything goes to the central government, and that's it. It takes 10 years to do so. Because again, they are also facing all sort of other things that are too fast happening, like the influx of so many people from Venezuela. It was not expected. So it's all these other issues that Panama is facing as a country, and then one thing that they will try to do now is that they are doing decentralization. They are trying, in Boquete is the first, I think, is the first, one of the first districts that is being placed as the one that will have some sort of decentralized management of incomes and everything. So that would be good. And now what we are getting ready is, okay, run, because we need to be ready for that. Because then we will have to do, because that's again what we say. We keep the people telling here in the road, please use bigger, how do you call those things with the pipes? No, you know, or for the water, use bigger ones, because here when it rains, it rains. No. Then it rained and everything was on the road. That kind of problems is the main part of the problem, because then we had already the infrastructure money already invested. And then it was too little. I mean, use double the size, just use double the size. So there's a lot of other things that needs to be also worked with the community. The community knows more because we live here for a longer time. So if somebody tells you that it rains a lot, and they say, you ask them, okay, how much is that rain? And you tell them, well, all this flooding is like this, at least you got an idea. But when you have engineers that they think that they had it all figured out, it is not working. So we need that kind of interaction. Now that we are going to have decentralization, is more opportunities to do that kind of interaction. We just have more conversation, and because there are enough people here that knows how things are. Enough engineers here, retired, and that's the other part that we have. We have plenty of other capacities. We don't need the people to be part of the 100% in some, but if you got a good idea, just say so. I can hear the ideas, I pass them on, and I do this kind of presentation. This kind of presentation is the same one that I do in the municipality. So it's a lot of getting the people informed, get the people informed. So in that way, we at least can do some influence on the people that really makes the decisions. Another question? Yes.
Yes.
Hold the microphone to your mouth.
Okay, hello.
Yes.
I had a question. I went to a restaurant and I drank their coffee, and I loved it. I said, what kind of coffee do you drink? They told me Ruiz. I said, oh, great. I'm going to go buy some. So I went to Romero's to buy the coffee. I bought the coffee, took it home. It's not the same coffee. So then I seen the guy delivering the coffee at the restaurant. Okay, it came in big
bag,
kilo bag
yeah,
or something like that. I said, this coffee is different than the one in the store. And he says, yes. I said, well, why don't they make the coffee the same as it's in the restaurant at the store? Because, you know,
yeah,
if you go to a place and you like their coffee, you want to be able to go buy that coffee and take it home.
correct.
And you can't do it here? That don't make sense.
That's what I call a specialization. And the other part, which is what we have found interesting, is I am a coffee taster. I can tell you what is the best coffee. I can just give you grades on coffees. But what is the coffee that I like might not be the one that has the highest grade or they have the lowest grade. Because one thing that is happening with coffee, which is nice, is that the coffee that you like is the one that you like. It doesn't matter if it is this one or this one. What the key point it is to find out What is that coffee? And when we talk about that, we have 5 different roasts of coffee. We got at least there 20 different coffees. Which is the one that you really like? It's the one that you need to find about it. So it's not that much, and that's what we say. When you have a coffee that you like, then you find out what coffee is that one. In your case, it would be the restaurant blend. And it's prepared for restaurant blends. This is different from the one that is on the coffee store, because when you go to the yellow package has a very specific, what we call cup profile, how it behaves in your mouth. So if that one is not the one that you really enjoy, then you have to go to the next one, which is, this is the one that you really enjoy. There are 2 different things. And this is why coffee is also a nice word. I don't know how many of you have done tasting. You are in the place. I mean, this is the place of coffee. We have people coming from New Zealand. We have people coming from Australia. We're having people from China, from Taiwan. You could not imagine from there. They come here to taste coffee. And they come here to learn about coffee. But one thing that we also need to learn is how we enjoy paradise. That is one nice thing. Just for one time, if you are in Boquete, one time, go and do some tasting. Taste the coffee, taste 10, taste 5, taste 3. But this is the place. We are living in the place. Yes.
Well, my favorite coffee is the Frances coffee.
Oh.
I've been buying it for probably 8 years now. My question is, Maria, what are the different places, hills in Boquete, does Ruiz grow its coffee? And also, is it true that the higher the climate, altitude for growing coffee, the better?
It is better the higher the altitude. In Geisha, no question about. You can notice the difference right away. Geisha should be above, in Boquete, should be above 1,500. From there up. Yes, let me just, the other question was about the different areas. So we have coffees grown in Orqueta area, which is a very nice area, one of the best areas of Boquete. We have another ones that we got in Palmira, which is becoming a little bit marginal. But the reason why we have more in Palmira is because that's where the processing plants are. Casa Ruiz owns the biggest green processing plant in town, which is capable of handling 4 million pounds every year. So it's a lot of coffee. And then we also have in Volcancito. That's the other area that we have, and we have in Jaramillo. So those are different areas, so we can understand what is happening in different areas. The difference with Casa Ruiz is that we have trained the people, the local people, to do the specialized work of processing all the way through. So they know all coffees in Cafe Ruiz are traceable. If there is a problem like you had that you didn't like, this is our policy. If you open a bag of Cafe Ruiz and for one reason or another didn't taste the same, Casa Ruiz will buy the coffee back from you, because we can never check 100% of our own production. And we need to learn why that coffee is not at the expected cup profiling. So this is very key, and that's something that we highly appreciate of our clients, because they are contributing to help us to be better and to learn, which is even more important. Yes, ma'am. Sarah.
You kind of answered one of the questions. Once you do find the coffee that you like, how do you make sure that it's going to be the consistent, same type of coffee? That's one question. But I did have another one, and that's when we first got to Boquete, there used to be a car wash as you drove from the south from David into Boquete area. There used to be a stop where you had some type of spray, and I was told that was done so you can control bacteria going into the coffee farms and stuff. What happened and why isn't it being done anymore?
Okay, consistency is the challenge of the roaster. If there is something that we strive for being is consistent in the roasting, because we do not know what is coming from the farm, we don't know how it was taken care of, we don't know a lot of things that are taking place there. But when we put the coffee into a bag, every time that you open that brand, you already know what it should be. And if it doesn't there, you want to know why. Because with coffee, it's a very particular product. Coffee becomes part of who you are. And there is nothing worse than somebody giving you a bad cup of coffee. You get upset at the person. How could, it's so important. Coffee is so key. It's a unique product. It's a unique product in that sense. So there is coffee. What is good about coffee is that it's not as sensitive to climate change as it is wine. Because wine comes from the juice of the fruit. Coffee comes from the seed. Seed is more stable. So we have a little range to work with. As long as we are there, we know the consumer will be okay. It's when we get out of that range, is when we need to know, okay, why was it out of the range? So the reason the consistency has to do also in the way that, are you using the same water? Coffee is 99% water. Well, nobody knew that they just put the what I call the chlorine pill. Then your water today is full of chlorine. And you use it for coffee, totally wrong. That coffee will not taste the same. And the problem is not the coffee, the problem is the water. So consistency is a tricky part in that sense. If we know how to do it in the roasting, no problem, because we check, at least in Café Ruiz, we check coffee before on the lab, cupping, blind cupping, before and after. And we pretty much understand what is happening. Only when there is a big problem that we have no control on it, we have to figure out why. The other question is, after you have the coffee roast in, it's over. After you have the coffee butter in, it's over. There's no point in doing any kind of fumigation because it's already in. So what they tried to do was to prevent it. But we knew it was going to be impossible, because the coffee pickers that we have here were the coffee pickers that were in Costa Rica. They brought the thing in their clothes. That's it. It was just a matter of time. So they tried to prevent it, but you gotta try to do something in order to say that at least you care. But basically it was a way to just delay it maybe 6 months. That was it. And the moment that you found it, you knew it was here. But I think that what we didn't realize at that point is that climate change was going to be even harder it was key. It was going to be the key really into this whole development of the fungus. That we didn't know. And that we had to learn through the experience. So I think that in that sense, we missed what the priority was there. So we learned it by experience. Yes.
So 2 questions. One is, where do we buy the yellow package? Because we're visiting here, we don't know. And number 2 is, so are you picking year-round now that you've had the climate change?
Yes, that has increased the cost of it, because the pickers has to go. Right now they're already picking. Well, last year we were not expecting that. Now we have to, because the other problem is if you don't pick, then it comes the coffee butter, which is a little insect that loves the coffee and eats it before you pick it. So it's better especially when it is getting ripe, that's when it just gets in. So the coffee butter, in order to avoid the coffee butter, we have to go and pick everything. You pick all the time. So now we are picking all the time, which increased the cost of it. So if you have seen here in Boquete, the cost of coffee going up, has to be going up, because it's the only way to make sustainable the coffee grower. Otherwise, they will go to somewhere. You don't need to have a PhD when your pocket is empty. Yeah? So that's what we're trying to do. And the other question, Romero will have it.
One more question, that's it.
Or Baru also. Yes.
I'm from Hawaii, we're in the coffee business since February of 1984. started a company called Coffees of Hawaii. We planted 700,000 red Katuai trees in the island of Molokai. There are many reasons for picking that place, mainly to keep away from the sugar companies, because they would control everything. But what I wanted to ask you is, we've been talking about the different kinds of insects you got to keep away from and keep out. But we understood when we first started our plantation, February of '84, that Hawaii and northern Queensland, Australia were the only two places in the world where coffee rust did not exist. And I don't know if that's still the case or not, but I know that coffee rust is very, very difficult to deal with. And I heard your comment about the resistance that geisha has to rust. I'm anxious to know a little bit more about that.
Okay, in some areas.
So we're going to have to ask her to do fast forward, which I'm sorry, you can see why we could just sit here for ages. I mean, her coffee knowledge is fascinating. So I'm sorry, Maria.
Yeah, well, this is, yeah. The thing with the geisha is that it was brought because resistant to pests. That's the reason, first reason and basic reason why it was brought here to Panama, into Boquete. It has shown some resistance in some areas. In some other areas, it has also subject to the coffee rust. So there are other things that we need to look into, which is nutritional parts that we are still learning about the geisha variety, what kind of nutrition it needs, what is the kind of soil, the quality of the soil that it needs. So there is another systemic system that we still need to do research about. So far, everything that we're doing is just praying a lot, because that's the only way you can control the weather, and observing a lot, basically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria.